Besides that, we're all here. That's good. We all made it to the last one of this, whatever they call it, set. Then from next time, we'll be looking at the 6 perfections, the Bodhisattva's way. Anyway, of course, many people uh, did die in the world. In the meantime, the lady around the corner from here died in the shower. I guess she was found dead. Yeah, must have. I suppose. Yeah. Somebody's mother, I guess. I mean, I suppose she had children. She had a sister that she used to help a lot. So her sister is her in many ways. It's hard, isn't it? This particular aspect of samsara. So if we can start with the refuge and bodhicitta prayer. Please, Michael. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits of generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits of generosity and so forth, I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merits of generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. Be careful to think about bodhicitta. By practicing bodhicitta, we are really going for refuge. One of the most amazing things that the Buddha taught. We say that we go for refuge to the Dharma, then the Dharma is the actual refuge, what actually saves us, protects us, helps us. And in fact, with bodhicitta, then it's incredible for oneself and incredible for others as well. So it's very nice, meditating on bodhicitta. It's also not easy in many ways. Really, meditating on bodhicitta, it's not just, like me over here meditating on bodhicitta over there. We're trying to bring something into our minds or bring something up in our minds. People like to say our hearts and minds. I don't know whether you need to have bodhicitta in your heart or in your mind or in both. But anyway, it's in itself, it's kind of quite, for us, for each one of us as an individual, it's something quite revolutionary, something, like the whole idea of um, being able to cherish others more than oneself, almost like caring for others more than they care for themselves, even. So overcoming the selfishness, which we don't think we have, but when you look carefully, you discover there's plenty of it. And then also bodhicitta is based on compassion. Without being based on compassion, then the bodhicitta is kind of like a joke. Like yeah, like just a sort of tourism. Doesn't really mean so much, I think, anyway. And the compassion, the way we understand it, of course, means thinking of the suffering of others and then finding it unbearable. And within the Mahayana, finding it unbearable to the point where you take responsibility. So you think, I myself alone, I'm going to free them from their suffering. And that's why I have to achieve enlightenment. But understanding the suffering is not just a question of feeling compassion for people who are sick, dying right now in the intermediate state, in the lower realms, suffering in the so-called happy realms as well. Anywhere in samsara, there's always suffering. Understanding the different levels of suffering. Suffering, as they call it, the obvious one. Suffering of change, which is what we call happiness, which always changes into suffering eventually. Obvious suffering, and then the one that's the most difficult to even to really understand, let alone to be able to see, I guess, the suffering of conditioning, which I think really what it comes down to is the suffering of being stuck wherever you're born, and however nice things might be, of course, however bad things might be in your life, but even now, no matter how good things might be, you're still stuck inside your existence because of not having realized emptiness. So, compassion needs to take that into account. Wanting to free all sentient beings from even that, or especially that. Otherwise, it's like as it comes up in one of the things we're going to be doing today, it's like when you shave. You shave, but it keeps coming back because you haven't pulled the whiskers out from the root. I think the Tibetans have got the idea. They pull the hairs out. Tibetan men, if they have a hair growing out of the face, they tend not to have hairy faces. You might have noticed that. Some do, some don't, but mostly I think they don't. So, and sometimes it's a bit like, what's it called? Um, what monkeys do, to each other, pulling the bugs out from the hair, the lice or whatever. Anyway, so you'll see, I've seen this anyway. One of them, a guy would be sort of like sitting there, maybe laying down, and his friend's got a pair of tweezers plucking out the whiskers. So that's pulling it out from the roots. That's what we need. Otherwise, just shaving goes back again. Anyway, with the faces that most of us European types, non-Asian types, I suppose, it'd be a hard job. It'd be quite painful too, pulling each out, each one out. Anyway, you get the point. To go to the text for a little bit. Lama Tsongkhapa's Lamrim the medium length stays of path. So where we are is on page 228, down the bottom there. Just a small section. Then the rest goes on to, even though it's only the next chapter, it starts talking about the six perfections in the title, I mean, but the need for practicing the six perfections and so on is comes up next. So what it says is, okay, so the method, so this is, this is, this was mentioned before, this point was mentioned before, so now it actually comes in up in text. The method for restoring it if it has degenerated. So the method for restoring what? Well, should be pretty self-evident, because all that it's been talking about here is the wishing mind, what he calls, this translator calls the aspiring mind. So it must be that. Hasn't yet got on to the engaging mind, as they call it. Engaging bodhicitta. And what does it mean to degenerate? This is something to think about, because according to, and it's a kind of question to ask when you're really trying to sort of get into what the texts like this mean, So degenerate, what does that mean, degenerate? We call somebody a degenerate. I mean, probably means somebody rather than going to work, they spend their time just drinking and gambling and partying and maybe anyway, that we have that kind of idea, don't we? A degenerate. But anyway, so the nyamba here, when you see this word in this kind of text, it can mean completely ruined or just became weaker. So here, if we look at it, we can decide which one it seems to be talking about. if you transgress the precepts other than giving up the aspiring mind and mentally giving up sentient beings, there is no infraction from the point of view of a bodhisattva as long as you do not have bodhisattva vow. So if you transgress the precepts, which precepts? Again, it's what else could it mean apart from the precepts that have been mentioned above? And these are the precepts for, the two types of precept, two types of, I don't know, advice kind of thing on how to prevent your wishing mind, if you have it, or anyway, whatever degree of the wishing mind we have, we would normally think, even if you're not bodhisattva, if you've decided, yeah, this is something I want to do, I want to achieve enlightenment with the sake of all sentient beings, then we have some sort of little bit of bodhicitta from that point of view, don't we? You wouldn't go around telling people you've got a little bit of bodhicitta, and it's a bit like saying I'm a little bit of a bodhisattva, so it doesn't work. But anyway, this aspiration is something to cherish and to nurture until it really does become the real thing and you become a natural bodhisattva. Anyway, so precepts are to prevent it from, what was it, from becoming weaker in this life, or becoming, completely losing it. So, in other words, to prevent it from degenerating in this life. And then the two sets of 4 precepts, the 4 black ones to avoid, the 4 white ones, or positive and negative ones, the 4 positive ones to practice in order not to be separated from bodhicitta in future lives, which is like extremely important, right? We already talked about that before. So if you transgress the precepts, so other than giving up the aspiring mind, does that ring a bell? Giving up the aspiring mind, does it sound like a precept? Because it should. To be honest, I have to read up on these things and prepare, right, in order to be able to talk. So of course I know because I already looked up. I thought, oh, which one is that one? So it says above, it's one of the ones from above, right? Anyway, so these are both, this one where it says giving up the aspiring mind and mentally giving up a sentient beings, but actually it should say like even one sentient being, mentally giving up any sentient being. The thing is, yeah, so those are both in the ones to avoid the bodhicitta degenerating in this life. There's no infraction from the point of view of a bodhisattva as long as you do not have bodhisattva vows. So this is also a whole big thing, and I think we talked about this, vow, bodhisattva vow, bodhisattva ordination, bodhisattva restraint. There's a little bit of a discussion about this between Yangtze Rinpoche. Yangtze Rinpoche comes to the center every year, and some of his students. It's just a short discussion. He talks about, the best way to translate this and the kind of feeling you get from saying restraint or vow, whatever. He doesn't talk about ordination, but often people say, they talk about the novice ordination, full ordination. Bodhisattva ordination, do they say that? Maybe not so much actually. Bodhisattva ordination, tantric ordination, but they talk about the tantric vow, right? Anyway, so it's all very confusing. And I think in the end, it's probably restraint is best. Restraint, possibly ethical restraint, but anyway, restraint, because Domba has got to do with like sort of like hold. Yeah, in this context, holding yourself back from doing something which would be against the Bodhisattva's way. against the principles of bodhicitta. But also when you take the bodhisattva restraint, bodhisattva vows, whatever, then there are 8 root downfalls, is what they call root downfalls. Bodhisattva root downfalls. So what this seems to be saying is that if you do have the bodhisattva vows, then if you give up bodhicitta, or give up a sentient being, mentally give up a sentient being, then there would be an infraction. I mean, that so what it's saying is you've got these 2 precepts, right? Not to give up the aspiring mind, not to give up the old wishing mind, and not mentally giving up any sentient being. And there are several other ones that were mentioned, right? So what did you have? Like 4 for preventing the bodhicitta from degenerating in this life, and then the 8 for not being separated from it from future life. So it's mainly talking about the 4 that prevent it from degenerating in this life. So if you were to break any of the other precepts that are mentioned that we need to follow to prevent it from degenerating in this life, then you would have got you wouldn't get a downfall. We'd have to talk about what a downfall is, but anyway, it wouldn't be a downfall if you haven't got the Bodhisattva vows. If you've got the Bodhisattva vows, then doing those actions would be downfalls. In the case of these 2, of course, if you have the Bodhisattva vows, then it would be a downfall. But what he's saying here is that even if you don't have the Bodhisattva vows, it would still be a downfall. So now we have to think about what downfall means, and actually the difference between a root downfall and simply a downfall. So downfall, you can almost tell what it means just from the word, because, well, actually, what has he called it? He's called it, he's called it infraction. I don't exactly know why he wanted to call it that. It would be an infraction when you think, I mean, what does usually an infraction means? Like you've gone against something, right? An infraction. I don't know if that's in the highway code or something, but anyway, we use it in that way, don't we? An infraction means it's like you've broken a rule or something. But anyway, a downfall is, so dongwa literally means to fall. To fall. Well, if you're going to fall, where are you going to fall? You're going to fall down, right? You don't usually fall up. So you fall down. Where do you fall down to? You fall down to the lower realms. So that's why it's called a downfall, is because by doing that action, if you don't purify it, then that kind of karma that you've created means that you'll be born, that will cause you to be born in lower realms. So that's a downfall. Anyway, he doesn't talk about root downfalls here, but generally speaking, I think that what's implied is that there are all kinds of bodhisattva downfalls, but they're not all root downfalls. And the root downfalls are for breaking any of the 18 root downfalls. And in other contexts, usually when they say root this and that, what it means is that by doing any of those 18 actions, then you've completely lost your bodhisattva vows, or your bodhisattva restraint, or your bodhisattva ordination. Okay, that's the root one. So the other ones, they're still downfalls, they're still very heavy, you need to purify and so on, but by doing them, you wouldn't automatically have, wouldn't automatically lose your vows. Okay, and since you don't have the vows, we're talking about, just supposing you've only done this ritual with the wishing mind, but not taking the bodhisattva vows, this is how it would be. Those 2, you would have a downfall. the other two, the other ones that I mentioned, wouldn't be a downfall. What they would be is, does it say in that first sentence? I don't think so. Okay, it comes in the second sentence. However, since it transgresses the precept of promising promising virtue in the interim, it becomes a faulty conduct. It would be, in other words, a faulty conduct. That's as good as any translation. Nature faulty conduct. But this, I'm not 100% sure about. The virtue in the interim, I think, I wonder if he really knew what it meant himself, because it says parmekewa. I'm not sure. But what it's saying is that, sorry, however, since it transgresses the precept of promising virtue in the interim, what that means, even if I can't say completely, what it means is not really precept of promising virtue in the interim. It's being it's a virtue. Keeping those precepts is a virtue that's called an intermediate virtue. Could be interim. I mean, interim means like something like for the time being, in the interim, in the time being, right? So it might mean it's a virtue which you get, which isn't as strong a virtue as when you have the actual bodhisattva vows. So it's something in between. You're like, if you haven't even taken, done this bodhicitta in a ceremony, making the promise not to be, to not to give up bodhicitta from now until enlightenment. You don't get a restraint, you don't get a vow, but it's still quite strong. The virtue is very strong, and it seems to be saying that's called an interim or intermediate virtue. And promising, I think it means like it's something you've accepted. So you've by taking the bodhicitta ceremony, you've accepted to lead your life in a particular way, which can be described a little bit in terms of these precepts. The precepts for stopping the bodhicitta from degenerating in this life, and the precepts for keeping the connection in life after life. Okay, so that's it. So that's a little bit. I mean, it's important. I mean, it has to be important. But the main thing really is what he says is it would, by breaking any of the other precepts that are mentioned above, it would still be a faulty conduct, and therefore should be confessed by means of the four powers. So, in other words, even if breaking one of those precepts wouldn't be so heavy that it's a downfall, you shouldn't think that therefore it's okay, it doesn't matter. Because even if it's not a downfall, think about what we know about karma. If you don't purify, once you've created negative karma, if you've engaged in some kind of like destructive karma, then if you don't purify it, it keeps increasing in its power, right? And what do they say? Like if it's left unpurified, then generally speaking, if you kill an insect, of course that's a bad karma. But it's not as bad karma as killing a human being, they say, right? But then if you were to leave it without purifying it for, I don't know, like 15 days or something like that, then it would become as strong as the karma for killing a human being. So, there's that aspect of karma. When you don't purify it increases in its power, right? So still, the point is, if you break those two precepts, then that's really that's the most heavy. And in the case of all of the other ones, they're not as heavy as that, but they're still heavy. Anyway, all of them need to be purified. So how are you going to purify them? We have different ways of purifying. These things came up in the karma part of the text, right? So um, the somehow there's a custom, there's a connection between reciting the names of the 35 Buddhas to purify bodhisattva vows. So that's a very good way. But otherwise, if that's a bit too much, you'd be surprised how many people memorize them. Some memorize them, these 35 names in Tibetan, some in English. Many memorize it in English that don't even know any Tibetan, but they know these names, and then they do the practice and they do the prostrations at the same time. So anyway, the reciting the names is what does the purifying. Yes, so that's a good habit to get into, is to recite those every day. Once you're used to it, it takes a few minutes, really. If you're in a hurry, it just takes a few minutes. But otherwise, there's a reciting Om Mani Padme Hum. Imagine Chinrezi, your Guru Chinrezi on the crown of your head, and nectar is, white, purifying nectar is streaming down through you and completely purifying all of your native karma. Those of doing those actions, but like everything that needs to be purified gets purified. And it's very important at the end, whether you do 21 or 100 or in other words, a round of the mala or 10 or however many, then in the end you feel very clear that everything has become completely purified. Whenever you do purification, that's always one very important part of the purification, is at the end you think, everything became completely purified. Okay, should we go on? Okay, let's go on. Stop maybe 2 or 3 minutes to try to digest that. Think about that. You can even just read that paragraph and see if it makes sense now. And now I need to screen share. So this, fine, that's no good. The thing is, it's a text that I can't just put in the chat and let everybody download, because it's one you need to get from the FPMT store. See, I know, maybe it works like that. You can carry on meditating for a while. Now I think I have to, because now I can't see it, although I've got it on my iPad. Hmm. Oh, is it moving around when I do this? No. Okay, good. Can you, so it says it's got the title page there, right? Okay, so the thing is, I mentioned that I wanted to go through this because it came up in the conversation about how to prevent, how to keep connected with bodhicitta in life after life, in future lives, life after life. And so this is, at least in part, this is Lama Zopa Rinpoche's, what do you call it, answer to that, how you do that. And I think I mentioned that I see, on one, that like I think throughout, whenever since he started teaching Westerners, he always emphasized this one. It's amazing, really. Okay. So cultivating mindfulness of bodhicitta in daily activities, translated and composed by Lama Zopa Rinpoche. I think this seems well. Anyway, if you look at the colophon at the end, then it seems to come mainly from a sutra. So a teaching of the Buddha called the Ratna Mega Sutra. It says it in the colophon. There are other sources as well. I don't know which, but anyway. So yeah, I think that's okay. We keep going now. You can see, I hope you're not getting dizzy from the scrolling. So this is worth reading. I'm not going to read it now, but this is worth reading because this is actually, Lama Zopa Rinpoche speaking. Cultivating mindfulness of bodhicitta in daily activities, talking about the importance of bodhicitta and why it's so necessary. So you remember I read out a few last time, right? So this is much more complete, and we may or may not get through the whole thing, and it doesn't matter if we don't, because anyway, yeah. I don't know if you want to take us, maybe it's the easiest thing to do. I should just, copy and paste the page into the chat, but then that's going to take time. So if you can do a screenshot of that, if that works for you, then you can find it on the FPMT site, and it's on the basis of donation. Still, I have to direct you to that rather than just giving it to you straight, because it's on the basis of donation, and one of the options, if there's no, if it starts off at $0 anyway. There's a $0 donation. Okay, cultivating mindfulness of bodhicitta in daily activities. I think I found it just by, doing a Google search for bodhicitta mindfulness. Okay, so here we are. So when you lay down, whether it's just to put your feet up or whether you're sleeping, well, I think what it means is laying down to sleep, because of course, to cultivate mindfulness of bodhicitta while you're asleep, you've got to be at quite a high level, I think, or have some incredible imprints and stuff. So, it could be laying down to just to relax, it could be laying down for to sleep. And then also, actually, these are the different ones for different ones of these. Okay, it's not just one for that covers all of them. Then when you wake up in the morning, so when you go to sleep at night, when you lay down, when you go to sleep at night, when you wake up in the morning, when you stand up, and when you sit down, different things. When you lie down in the snow lying position, think, I'm bringing all sentient beings to the sorrowless state. Well, I'm not quite sure why Rinpoche has said snow lion. There might be some reason, but literally it just says, I'm guessing it would just say lion, lion position. And you might remember from when we were going through the preparatory practices, this is one of the things where, how you sleep in the lion posture or something like that, lion position, it says here. And I think I explained something I got from Gyumi Khenzo Rinpoche Losang Jamba, because I don't think a lion has ever been seen to lay down like a lion in the way that is explained to us, which is, you lay down on your right side, supposedly with your left arm going down, the side of your body, hand resting on the thigh. If you've got really long arms, maybe the knee. I don't know how far. I can't remember how far my arms go down anyway. And then, so the left leg is on top of the right leg. And then you sort of like this, got your right hand under your right cheek. And so Gyumi Khenzo Rinpoche Losang Jamba explained that when it says laying down like a lion, what it means is with the supreme confidence of a lion. Lions are they tend to be quite fearless because, everybody else is scared of them. They get a hard time sometimes, if they bite off more than they can chew, attack something that can fight back. But anyway, they're very kind of like very confident. They just, they don't have many predators, if any, actually. So laying down with the confidence of bodhicitta, I think you could say, like that. Right. So what to think, it devises in that sutra. I am bringing all sentient beings to the sorrowless state. Sorrowless state would be the state beyond samsara, right? So nirvana. I'm bringing all sentient beings to the state of nirvana. Then when you when you go to sleep, yeah, so maybe, so you lay down, the first thing you think is going to be, I'm bringing all sentient beings to a sorrowless state. Then as you're laying there, if you haven't already fallen asleep yet, because some of us fall asleep very quickly, don't we? Oh, I used to for a long time. Seems to be a bit different now, but just lay down and you're gone kind of thing. So may all sentient beings achieve the Dharma Kaya, right, when you go to sleep. So what does that mean, Dharma Kaya? Simple way, if you don't know yet. Basically the Buddha's mind, to achieve the Buddha's mind. May all sentient beings achieve the Buddha's mind. filled with wisdom, compassion, and so on. When you wake up, so when you wake up in the morning, or possibly after your siesta, but whenever you wake up, may all sentient beings achieve the holy body of a Buddha. Then when you get up from the bed, or if you've been sitting down and you stand up, so anyway, whenever you stand up, may all sentient beings rise up from the oceans of samsaric sufferings. When you sit down, think I'm bringing all sentient beings to the heart of enlightenment. Heart of enlightenment, essence of enlightenment. So I'm bringing all sentient beings to Buddhahood, is another way of saying it. Okay, so one thing about this is I think it's good to read through through all of them, and some of them will appeal to you more than others. I don't know if there's anybody that would do all of these. There's a few pages. I don't know if there's anybody that would do all of these right from the beginning. Some might appeal to you more than others, so you can start off even with just one of them that appeals to you. I mean, like for example, because we have to get up. When you get up, you're not necessarily getting up from sleep, so you could be fully awake. So it's a little bit easier. So whenever you get up, standing up from a chair, standing up from getting out of your car, whatever, thinking may all sentient beings rise up from the oceans of samsaric suffering. In other words, may all sentient beings become free of samsara, no more suffering. See what I mean? Just gradually. And I think you just really, if you just think about how important is it for me to be able to, I don't want to say remember really. I don't know if it's not so much a question of remembering bodhicitta, but somehow to get the connection. If we think about even how things have been for us in this life, like, I mean, I can't speak for everybody, of course, but it's probably most of us is like you didn't sort of start thinking bodhicitta from the moment you were born, not even from the moment when you were able to crawl or walk, or it's sort of at a certain point coming into contact with this teaching and then listening to an explanation of how to cultivate it. You like the sound of it, you try, and then you just keep trying and trying, and it becomes gradually more and more part of your life. So the way to put it simply, I suppose, the way not to be separated from bodhicitta in future lives is not being separated from it in this life. So if you keep thinking about bodhicitta, and all of these ways, really, they're ways to think about bodhicitta, to train your mind to remember bodhicitta, although they don't all mention the word bodhicitta, but it's all sort of like bodhicitta related, right? If you fill your life with this kind of mindfulness, then it's kind of guaranteed you're going to make that connection in life after life. Remember in life after life. So bathing, washing, and brushing your teeth. So when you take a bath, a shower, or wash your hands, or brush your teeth, and so forth, think I am washing away all the stains of illusions of all sentient beings. So that's pretty good, isn't it? Some people take a shower or bath daily, or at least anyway, a few times a week. We wash our hands all the time, especially since COVID. You have to brush our teeth at least once a day. At least, I can't remember, what do they say these days? Once a day is enough. Anyway, so that's that's like the short way in a way. But then he gives some more, and this might be actually Rinpoche's own sort of addition to amplify the practice, the possibilities. Alternatively, when you bathe or shower, visualize making a bath offering to your guru. So if you're familiar with the Jocha, preparatory practices. Um, then there is a section where you offer a bath to the Guru Shakyamuni, the Guru in the aspect of the various Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and Gurus of the lineage and so on, and you offer a bath to them, all in the recognition that from their side, they don't need a bath, but from your side, in order to purify yourself, you offer this. So really, it's more like we can't see them as pure. So what we're doing is by offering a bath to them, then what we're really doing is washing away the impurities in our own mind that prevent us from seeing them in a completely pure way. So anyway, alternatively, when you bathe or shower, visualize making a bath offering to your guru, and it mentioned a bit about that below. Think that the initiating deities are holding up vases of water to pour over your crown, purifying all your own and others' delusions and defilements, and you generate infinite bliss. So you can imagine that all sentient beings in the form of human beings, the same is happening to them, or you can imagine them all at your heart, so that when this initiation water from the vases pours through you, then because they're all there, they also get completely purified and generate infinite bliss. Then he says a short way of doing the bath offering. What he means by short is short compared with the many verses that you find in the preparatory practices. So there is this one verse. So you've got so anyway, a short way of doing this bath offering is to visualize yourself as Vajradhara. You know who Vajradhara is, right? So Shakyamuni Buddha, when he taught the Tantra, then he taught the aspect of Vajradhara. Basically like that. Visualize yourself as Vajradhara and repeat this verse and the mantra as you wish. I don't know if you can visualize yourself as Vajradhara if you haven't had an initiation. What they do say, what I've heard Lama Zopa say several times is even if you haven't had initiation, you can visualize yourself as Shakyamuni Buddha. But anyway, if you're able to do that. So then you have this verse, Guru Vajradhara, embodiment of all three refuges, takes the form of virtuous friends to subdue beings in whatever way is needed. So Vajradhara, appears as ordinary beings, ordinary in the sense of like going through the same process of being born, getting older, sometimes sick, passing away, just like ourselves, but not really ordinary because it's the person who's guiding you along the path. So appearing in that form, then grants the supreme and common realization. Supreme is enlightenment, common is the lesser levels of realization and abilities, powers. To the kind gurus, I offer this bath, and you recite this mantra Om Savatadakata Abhishekata Samaya Shriye Ahum. Recite that. So in the actual shower, how are you going to do that? If you've memorized it, no problem, of course. But otherwise, anyway, just memorizing that mantra would be a good start. Om Savatadakata Abhishekata Samaya Shriye Ahum. So, you're reciting that mantra. And even if you don't memorize these words and say those words, and if you don't memorize the mantra and say the mantra, anyway, when you're in the shower, you think that this is I'm being, I'm, so imagining myself in the form of Buddha, who is like the combination of all enlightened beings. So purifying, offering a bath to all of them, which is actually purifying my own body, speech and mind, and all sentient beings. In addition, so I don't know, this is maybe for somebody who's going to have a shower once a month and has got also a good memory for memorizing things. In addition, you can bless the water by reciting Om Mani Padme Hum, just Om Mani Padme Hum. Now, when it says that, though, in addition, you can bless the water. Which water? How would you bless it? Thing is, if you're doing a bucket wash, which I think actually these days, I don't know if that happens so much in India. When I first went out to India, then it'll, often the way you would have a way to clean yourself is you get a bucket of cold water, probably, which is okay in hot weather, except it's still a bit of a chop. Or, hot water if you're lucky. And, what do you call it? Water container. Just pour it over yourself. Get some soap up. Bit more. So yeah, so doing like that. So you could, if you got the bucket of water, then you could recite Om Mani Padme Hum over it, or the five powerful mantras. Some of those five powerful mantras. Again, Google five powerful mantras. I did find a book also on FPMT, and it's another one of those ones where it's a donation only, or how much you can afford, feel inclined to offer. So it's got the five powerful mantras, and I think some of those mantras are pretty long. Although for people that are used to doing the Namgyalma practice, then they probably already got that one memorized. So anyway, if you know those ones, then you say those a few times and then blow on the water. So then it becomes the water anyway is going to be very puriful, very powerful for purifying negative karma. Okay, so far? I thought I saw some questions actually somewhere. You're screen sharing? Stop share. I don't want to stop sharing. No, I can't see anymore. I can't see the thing for looking at the chat anyway. Maybe better just keep going. Maybe we can do, if there were some questions or something, then I can look. It might have been things that Michael put in. I don't know. Putting on perfume. Okay, so when you're slapping on that perfume, this is what to think. When you put on perfume, visualize yourself as the guru again, the embodiment of the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So it's an offering to all of them, and offer it to your, and also offering it to yourself as as the guru. That's the embodiment of the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, or the Buddhas, or the Sangha everywhere. It comes down from time to time. Oh, I see. Already found it. So Michael's been busy. Well done. Putting on perfume. So you offer it to them. And then there is this verse. And again, if you want to memorize the verse and say the verse, that's one thing, but you do also get the idea from looking at this verse. So like polishing gold already pure and refined, I apply the best of perfumes, fragrantly filling the billion universes to the dazzling holy body of the Munis. Munis means the Buddhas. So, like polishing gold already pure and refined. I don't get the connection between that and offering perfume. I can get the connection between that and washing. Washing something which is already clean. But so anyway, like polishing gold already pure and refined. So the bodies of the Buddhas, which you're visualizing yourself as the Buddha, right? So, you're thinking that because you're in this aspect of Buddha Shakyamuni, you've generated yourself as Buddha Shakyamuni, then, your body is like gold, pure gold. I don't know. But anyway, I apply the best of perfumes, and this is talking about you imagine, even if it's not actually filling a billion world systems, universes, then you imagine that's how powerful it is. Which also doesn't mean to say that it has to be like overwhelming. You can imagine if you had a perfume that could actually pervade the whole three universes, it'd be pretty powerful when you put it on, wouldn't it? But you don't need to think like that. Just a very beautiful perfume, and then it's filling the whole universe. So then everybody is enjoying it like that. Then dressing and putting on and releasing a belt. So dressing, that's pretty straightforward. Putting on and releasing a belt. Most of us that have got belts, you don't put it on every day, or take it off every day. You just do it up and then you undo it, don't you? So that's what it's talking about. So when you get dressed, you think, may all beings be clothed in shyness and shame. So this is Rinpoche's favorite terms for these two things. You see them translated in different ways in other texts. I can't quite remember the other ways, but anyway, what it's talking about is with these two, I can't quite remember which is supposed to be which, but what it's talking about is what they have in common is refraining from negative actions, destructive actions. One is taking yourself as a reason, the other one is taking others as a reason. Taking yourself as a reason would be thinking, I'm a Buddhist, so I'm supposed to practice compassion. So I can't talk like this to people. I mustn't talk like this, I mustn't speak unkindly to people. That kind of thing. I mustn't steal. I mustn't harm in any way. I shouldn't. So taking yourself as a reason in that sense. Taking others as a reason would be like, for example, this would be really bad to do. This is something I absolutely must not do because all of the Buddhas will be aware of it. They can see everything all the time that we were aware of it, and then how are they going to feel about me doing this? So taking others as a reason, it means like that. So may they be clothed in shyness and shame. In other words, may they wear, like I'm putting on these clothes, may they uh, wear the clothes of shyness and shame. In other words, may they come to have these, maybe they be clothed in these two mental factors. I wonder if the connection between getting dressed, putting clothes on, is you know, yeah, I mean, it's kind of shyness and shame, isn't it? Not exactly the same, but you don't want to be seen walking around naked. You'd feel kind of like if you just think about yourself, you wouldn't want to walk around naked, um, and if you're thinking about others, you wouldn't want to walk about it and walking around naked, right? So it's a little bit of a connection there, isn't it? Similarity there. Okay, then alternatively, uh, you offer divine rest to yourself as the guru deity. So, if you've had initiation, then it can be any deity that you've received initiation into. Otherwise, like I say, Buddha Shakyamuni. Then there's this verse, Zabjam, Yambalaigu, by offering soft, smooth, and fine divine dress with indestructible faith in you who have attained the indestructible Vajra holy body. May I too achieve the Vajra body. So by offering these beautiful clothes, um, yeah, you don't have to be completely stuck in the ordinary. Just think that what you're offering, even if the kind of perfume that you wear, it might not be like the most expensive, but it's like it's the one that you like. In terms of the clothes, they might not be, like worth every item is like worth hundreds of dollars, but they're comfortable, and you imagine that what you're offering is something really like just divine, just the most comfortable, most finely made, beautiful clothing is what you're offering. Just like you can imagine if you're going to offer to uh, something to His Holiness, you wouldn't want to offer something like tatty and moth-eaten. What you're wearing might be tatty and moth-eaten, but you imagine what you're offering here is something really beautiful and, just, yes, very beautiful. And you're offering it because you imagine yourself as the Buddha, who is like all of your gurus and all of the Buddhas, all appearing in the one form of yourself, Shakyamuni Buddha. So then you're offering it to all of them. And they have the indestructible Vajra holy body. So their minds, they have the Dharmakaya, which is like omniscient, knowing everything, full of compassion, limitless compassion, loving kindness, and so on. And then also their body. Indestructible means, it means that yeah, fundamentally it means they have a body which isn't subject to birth and dying under control of karma and mental afflictions like ours is. They say of Buddha Shakyamuni that he told um, not Devadatta. What's his main disciple's name? The one that was around all the time. Ananda. So he told Ananda that he could live forever. And then after he passed away, Ananda got into big trouble because at that point he should have asked the Buddha to live forever, and then he would have lived forever. Anyway, so they again, also one thing that Ling Rinpoche said in Sijinling in San Francisco was that when the holy beings pass away, there's always a purpose. The thing is, they they go when they need to go, when they think it's time to go, and not before. So, he was consoling us with the loss of Lama Rinpoche. So, it's like that also. It means like that. Then when you put on your belt or you do up your belt, you think, may all sentient beings' minds be bound by the three higher trainings. So higher training in morality, concentration, wisdom, right? We could say lots about those. And it's something that we've talked about a bit before earlier on in this text. Then when you release your belt, then think, may all sentient beings be freed from the bondage of karma and delusions. So you get the idea, right? It's pretty good, isn't it? I hope you like it anyway. If you don't, tough luck. I'm going to keep reading. Okay? I think we might even get to the end. We'll see. So again, it's, I don't know. I think it's good to get this book and to read it, use it, go back to it, remind yourself of more things to do, and gradually use these. I mean, I think it's a very good way to keep one's mind on bodhicitta. So that's why it's called bodhicitta mindfulness, right? To keep bodhicitta, keep the mind on bodhicitta. You're doing all these ordinary things, and you can either just do them in an ordinary way. What's wrong with that? You might think, when you're washing, why not just wash? But how about washing and thinking that you're doing this amazing activity of offering to the Buddhas and so on? Why not do that? Because also, something that I don't know. I think I mentioned before. I came across I'm sure it's Geshe Zopa's commentary to the Great Exposition of the Stages of the Path. I couldn't find it again, but I saw in there where he said, when the time comes to die, what matters most is what you've been doing with your mind during your life. So if with your mind during your life you've just been doing ordinary things, okay, maybe no particular harm, but also maybe no particular benefit. But with your mind, when you've been doing all these things for, making offerings to the Buddhas, doing all these things for the sentient beings, as we see there are more as well, and it's all really pretty amazing. Then that's what you die with, that kind of imprint of doing that with your mind during your life. I think that's really, yeah, I think that's really true. Washing and cleaning, when you do laundry, wash dishes, and so forth, meditate on the water being the complete gradual path to enlightenment, and think, I am washing away all the stains of delusions of all sentient beings. When you clean the floor, dusting it, and so forth, think, may all sentient beings not have bad conduct. Anyway, may they not act in a bad way, but have perfect, pure conduct. May their way of conducting themselves in their lives be something really perfect and pure. Or meditate on the vacuum cleaner, broom, brush, or duster, whatever it is, being the complete graduated path to enlightenment. So this should be familiar to you from the preparatory practices from earlier in the text. It talks about when you sweep the room, you think of the broom as being the the teachings of your guru on the stage of the path, and with those teachings, you're going to guide the sentient beings so that they can become pure of all of their impurities, negative karma and negativities, various other negativities in the mind. So the dust would be their negative karma and mental afflictions and so on. So with the Lamrim teachings, you're clearing all that away. So what's left is a clean floor. Hopefully, some stains and messes are more difficult to clean than others, right? But anyway, you think that's what you're doing when you do this. You think you're doing that because let's face it, you could have the best vacuum cleaner in the world, and it can be a new Dyson one, even one of those ones that costs a few $100s, and it might clean the carpet so it looks clean, but I bet we've all seen those adverts where they show the sort of cartoon characters of all the bugs that are still going around amongst the the wool of the carpet or the whatever it's made of. So, but in your mind, what you're doing is you're completely cleaning the carpet. What you're doing with your mind is that you're cleaning away all of the negative karma and all of the mental fictions and so on of all sentient beings. Then, yeah, okay, preparing food and cooking. Still got plenty of time. It's quite good. So when you're cutting, chopping, or slicing anything, meditate on whatever sharp instrument you're using. It is bodhicitta, and think, I'm cutting through all sentient beings, self-cherishing, right? So as you cut, each time you cut, cutting through the sentient beings, self-cherishing. All sentient beings, that includes yourself, okay? Cutting through all self-cherishing, which is, like what do they say in that? What do they say in the Lama Chöpa? It's like a chronic disease. And she's in good, anyway, it says like that. Or meditate on it being the wisdom realizing emptiness. So that's good, you see, because primarily this is all talking about bodhicitta in the sense of the wish to achieve enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings, but in the mind training, the part of the mind training, the 7-point mind training anyway, in the 7-point mind training, the one which is talking about uh, basically how to summarize the whole of the Buddha's teachings. So all of Buddha's teachings somehow come down to the Mahayana teachings, and all of the Mahayana teachings come down to the 5 forces, which is so it's and if you look at those 5 forces, you get an idea of how to lead each day. Gives you sort of like outline for how to lead go about each day, day after day after day after day. So the first of those is called the Pembitop, so the force of the plan. So this is to do with, the main thing is you make a decision for the rest of my life. I am never going to be separated from the 2 bodhicittas, which means conventional bodhicitta, ultimate bodhicitta. Conventional bodhicitta is the one that we're talking about here. Ultimate bodhicitta means meditating on emptiness, basically. So, this whole life, especially this year, especially this month, especially this week, especially this day, I'm not going to be separated from bodhicitta, the 2 bodhicittas. So that's what that's talking about. So I am cutting all sentient beings' ignorance and delusions. Lama Zopa uses the word delusions. I've been talking with a friend about what is the best way to translate this Tibetan word nyumon or klesha, Sanskrit. And I've been saying, destructive thoughts and emotions, but I find myself, as we're talking together here, I'm saying mental afflictions all the time. Because the thing about the general characteristic of the klesha, if you use the Sanskrit word, and also if you look up klesha in the dictionary, or nyumon, the Tibetan word in the dictionary, it's like the general, like dictionary explanation of it, something which is tiring and prevents your mind from feeling peaceful. but particularly overwhelming, like it afflicts your mind. It's something that afflicts you. What was the other one I was saying? That it sort of makes things difficult for you. So mental afflictions, anyway. Mental afflictions. Yeah. Okay. So I'm cutting through all beings' ignorance and the mental afflictions. Alternatively, you can think, I'm cutting all sentient beings' root of samsara, cutting through the root of samsara of all sentient beings, which is the ignorance holding a truly existent I. Then when you make a fire or light a gas stove and so forth, like matches, you think, I'm burning all sentient beings' delusions with the fire of transcendental wisdom. So the fire that you've lit is the fire of transcendental wisdom. Transcendental wisdom, anyway, transcendental wisdom. Well, mainly it's talking about the wisdom realizing emptiness, that kind of wisdom. With that fire, then you burn up all of your mental afflictions. But here, of course, you're not thinking of just yourself, you're thinking of all sentient beings. I'm burning up all sentient beings' mental afflictions, delusions with the fire of transcendental wisdom. Then when you cook food in a pot or fry food on a pan, do the meditation for blessing the inner offering, thinking that the fire is the fire of transcendental wisdom. So the fire of transcendental wisdom, and inside that is the food, which would be like I'm just kind of like making up as I go along, really. The food would be like the, generally speaking, there is such a thing as pure and impure, right? So the food that we eat in general, I mean, if there was no such thing as impure, then none of us would need to purify, right? Because everything's pure already. So anyway, the food is also impure. Our bodies are impure, and the food we eat is impure. So what you think is that the food in the pot on one level is being purified by the fire of transcendental wisdom underneath it. But then, uh, yeah, so in that way, if you just leave it at that level, so that means that the food becomes something really pure, and so completely delicious, really delicious. And so then when you're eating it, you're making an offering of completely pure food to yourself, visualized as Shakyamuni Buddha or whatever deity. But actually, personally, I know, if I think about uh, visualizing myself as a deity or not or whatever, what I think is very nice, actually really very nice, is you think that Buddha Shakyamuni is in your heart. So whatever you drink, you can, if it's food that you've cooked, then you do like this, the transcendental wisdom fire has completely purified what's in the pot. And so I'm offering something completely pure to Buddha Shakyamuni, Guru Shakyamuni. Or at least, like the food is in front of you, maybe somebody else cooked it, or whether even if you cooked it or you got it from a restaurant, whatever, you bless it with Om Ahum, and then the Om Ahum sort of like bless the food, so it becomes completely, mind-blowing nectar, completely pure and everything. And then so you offer to Guru Shakyamuni. So Guru Shakyamuni, what's important about this is what they say about Buddha Shakyamuni, especially. Some people say any enlightened being, but my teacher again, Techo, used to say anything positive you do in relation to Buddha Shakyamuni is automatically going to be a cause for enlightenment. Doesn't matter what your um, motivation might be, even if you have no motivation, you're just doing it. It becomes automatically a cause for enlightenment. And then the emphasis on the guru, so Buddhist, on the one hand, Buddha Shakyamuni actually is your guru, or your guru is appearing to you in the form of Shakyamuni Buddha at your heart. So you're offering to your guru, who is in the form of Shakyamuni Buddha, at your heart. Whatever offering you make, it's automatically the cause of enlightenment. So that one's a very nice one to remember, actually. Very nice. Okay. So then eating food. When you eat, yeah, where would be a good place to stop? Maybe going to the toilet, I don't know. Eating food. When you eat, think, may all sentient beings be free from the 6 root delusions and 20 secondary delusions. So we have to study the mind and mental factors to be able to do this one. Anyway, simply speaking, what it means is all mental afflictions. May all sentient beings be free from all mental afflictions. So the 6 root delusions, I can't remember now. But anyway, if you look in the mental factors, it's like anger, ignorance, mistaken doubt, pride. I think jealousy is not one of them, but anyway. And then mistaken views about reality, that kind of thing. Then there's 20 secondary ones that are derived from those 6. They're called secondary, but doesn't mean to say that they're not as powerful or something. They can be actually worse, because like when the 6 root delusions get worse and worse, then they turn into the secondary ones. I think so, anyway. You can also, something you can also do or do alternatively is offer the food to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So again, you can just imagine all the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and before you actually start eating, you offer it to them. So we often do that, don't we? I mean, that's sort of like a rule in Buddhist gatherings. You do sort of like the one which Lama Yeshe used to do a lot. We do a lot in FBMT, Lama Sangye, Lama Chu, Dejin Lama, Kindrinde, Gichebo Lama, Lama Namda, Chubab, Lama Sangye, Lama Chu. The Buddha is Guru, the Buddha is Dharma. Dejin Lama, Kindrinde, the Guru is also the Sangha. So in other words, the Guru is all 3 jewels of refuge. Gungi Jebu Lamate, the Guru is the creator of all, the agent here that creates everything. I mean, of course, that doesn't mean to say the Buddha is like God, but well, anyway, we've been through all this. To be able to progress on the path, you have to know, you have to meditate, you have to practice. In order to meditate, practice, you need to know how to meditate and what to meditate on, how to do the practice, and so you need somebody to show you. So that's a guru. Yeah. So the guru is the creator of all means. Like it's from the guru that you learn to create everything good in your life, anything good in your life and future lives and so on. And in fact, when you do the mind training, then there are really powerful practices for transforming difficulties, and that involves, thinking this opportunity, this whatever what looks to me looks at first like it's a really disastrous problem, something really going wrong in my life. Actually, this is an opportunity for me to practice compassion. This is an opportunity for um, practicing taking and giving, and so on and so on. So this is something that my guru has set up for me to be able to learn and to be able to grow. There's that way of thinking with the mind training, really quite amazing. So that's why, although some people say that the third line should say the guru is the creator of all good things. Some people say it should say that, but from the point of view of mind training, good things, bad things, everything, because everything can be, you can grow from anything. Okay, so I think I'm just about to stop, maybe, but I don't know. So yeah, and also, okay, so you offer to the Buddhas, then you actually eat it, and then when you're eating it, do you think it's also an offering to all of the sentient beings in your body, the organisms living in your body, the various parasites, bacteria living in your body? And we've heard of this, I think, that you can make the prayer. Now I'm nourishing these creatures with food and in the future, may I be able to nourish them with the Dharma teachings. So you make that connection with those sentient beings in your body. Then if you have received highest yoga tantra, then you can bless and offer the food to yourself, visualized as a Guru deity, or offer it as a Solg offering or burning offering to the Guru deity visualized at your heart. But anyway, so you can imagine Buddha Shakyamuni at your heart, no problem whether you had initiation or not, and offer to him, her, whichever. Then go into the toilet. So that's English, right? So American English should say go into the restroom. So when you go to the restroom, so you visualize Vajrasattva on your crown, on the crown of your head, and also all sentient beings, including the members of your family. Then on your crown are all sentient beings, including members of your family, on a mundus of your heart. Well, it must mean all at a mundus of your heart. So I know what you can do is you can imagine Vajrasattva on the crown of your head. Again, you can think all sentient beings are doing the same thing, or they're in your heart. So when you recite the mantra, then the nectar, purifying nectar, comes down through the through the gurus through the crown of your head, and fills your body, purifies everything. There's all sorts of meditations to do that. In fact, it mentions some of it here. Okay, so including all the members of your family on a mundus of your heart. I think what this means is, you can have the Vajrasattva on the crown of your head, or you can just do it by imagining that you yourself are Vajrasattva if you had the initiation and the mantras at your heart. Then you can recite the long or short Vajrasattva mantra 21 times, or as many times as you can, depending how long you're going to be in that toilet. And imagine nectars and beams descending and purifying yourself and all sentient beings. Some people are very quick. And also some people haven't got the 100-syllable mantra memorized. The 100-syllable mantra is quite special. Is quite special actually. It's Vajrasattva is like the main way of purifying in general in the Vajrayana system, and I think it's got a lot to do with just the words. And I don't know the meaning of all the words, but offhand. But I know that right at the beginning when it says Om Vajrasattva Samaya, Om Vajrasattva Samaya, Manopalaya Samaya. So the way Gumikeza Rinpoche, Losang Jampa explained it, it's like you're reminding Vajrasattva of the promise that he made a long time ago to help all sentient beings. Remember your promise. Stay with me, purify me, look after me, care for me, like forever. So it has that kind of feeling about it. And then the nectar itself, of course, is the nectar coming from the body of Vajrasattva and completely enlightened beings. So it's in the nature. It's actually this very blissful wisdom, understanding emptiness that's streaming through you, purifying everything. And then what does he say? Think that all the negative karmas, obscurations, sicknesses and spirit harms of yourself and all sentient beings leave through your lower orifices in the form of the urine or feces, whatever it is. It descends and enters the gaping mouth of the Lord of Death, who is 9 stories below the earth, and transforms into nectar with which he is fully satisfied. So because he's fully... Oh, okay. No, yeah, so there's a bit more. So he's fully satisfied. So because of what you've offered to him, then he doesn't want anything else now, completely satisfied. And particularly what that means is has no interest in taking your life. Usually, I mean, I think it's kind of like just a way of thinking, kind of mythical, but it's just the idea that there is somebody called the Lord of Death, who's the one that comes and takes our life. Somehow, you find that a lot in these Buddhist teachings, and anyway, the psychology of it, I think, is the main thing. So it's like this being who is supposedly the one that eventually takes your life is not interested in taking your life anymore. So when you flush the toilet and close the lid on it, so this is actually a teaching to that they say that women are always complaining because men leave the toilet seat up. So here it says, flush the toilet and close the lid. Okay, so don't forget that. It's kind of weird, actually, men standing up to pee. Strange. When you flush the toilet and close the lid on it, imagine his mouth closes and is sealed with a very heavy golden double vajra, so he's completely not going to trouble you anymore. So it becomes a long life practice. So anyway, if you know that mantra, the long mantra, and you can do it, then that's great. But otherwise, there's the short one, and that's just Om Vajrasattva Hum. In many texts, it'll say Om Vajrasattva Ah, but Lama Zopa encouraged us to say Om Vajrasattva Hum. And he quoted a Lama of his, and I can't quite remember which one it was, but I think it might have been like Ling Rinpoche or possibly Trijang Rinpoche, Ling Dorji Chang, the previous one, or Trijang Dorji Chang, that said what it sounded like, Jupadewa said, like just somehow flows more naturally. Om Vajrasattva Hum, Om Vajrasattva Hum, Om Vajrasattva Hum. Rather than Om Vajrasattva Ah, Om Vajrasattva Ah, Om Vajrasattva Ah, Om Vajrasattva Hum. I don't know. Probably either is okay. And you recite that mantra and you do that visualization. And then at the end, you think that the Lord has completely no interest. See, the very heavy golden double vajra means he can't open his mouth anymore. So his mouth isn't going to be like looking at you gaping wanting to take your life. Like in the Wheel of Life picture, which has got the wheel of samsara in the mouth of the Lord of Death. Okay, so like that. So let's stop now. Maybe not with the. Maybe that's a good way to stop. Not with blowing your nose. Okay, so that's it for a while, and I'm not sure that we've got set up a new series. I'm supposedly coming back to the States quite soon, and then we have a couple of retreats, and we might have some Lamrim during that period, or it might have to be when I get back. I think that might be what we're doing. Is we've got the 2 retreats, which are like the first 2 weeks. Oh no, which are in the beginning of June, and then another one at the end of the beginning of July. Is it? No, beginning of May and then the beginning of June. Then I'm going back around the middle of June. Yeah, 14th. Then for probably it's after that we'll really start to get going. Anyway, we'll see. I have to talk with the SBC to see what we're going to do. So please do, get that book and try to practice that way. Do yourself a favor. Do all sentient beings a favor. And yeah, keep going with the Bodhicitta. Keep going with the Lamrim. So we can stop there then, right? Okay. Do some dedication. A little bit of dedication. It's a bit late already. Oh, I can't see, and that's, I think, because of the way I messed about with my screen. Oh, are you going to do screen share, Michael? Yeah. May the precious supreme bodhicitta not yet born arise. May that arisen not decline, but increase more and more. Yeah, we'll do this one. Due to all past, present, and future merits created by me and all merits of the 3 times created by numberless Buddhas and numberless sentient beings, because of all that, may bodhicitta be generated in the hearts of all sentient beings of the 6 realms, all sentient beings ever, and especially in the hearts of everybody in this world. Imagine that. Including all the students, benefactors, and volunteers in the FPMT organization, and especially LMB. May it be generated in the hearts of all those who rely upon me, all those for whom I have promised to pray. So we did, I don't know if we promised, but anyway, there was, I can't remember her name now, but it doesn't matter, we know that we were asked to pray for somebody at the beginning of this class, so thinking of her and my neighbor and everybody, especially all those who are in the intermediate state right now, feeling lost and afraid, probably mostly, and all those whose names have been given to me, may be generated in my heart and in the hearts of all my family members, those who are living and those who have died. May the bodhicitta that has already been generated increase. Incomparably kind and supreme Tenzin Gyatso, the wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, may you have a long life and all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. I fully dedicate all these virtues to be able to train just like the hero Manjushri, who knows reality, and just like Samantabhadra as well. I fully dedicate all my roots of virtue with dedication, praised as the best by all the gone beyond, victorious ones of the 3 times, in order to have good conduct. Due to this virtue, may I quickly become a Guru Buddha and lead all transmigratory beings without exception to that state. So let's just stop there with a sort of, well, no, actually, good to finish with this one that's just below, yeah, with the emptiness. Also dedicating for the, well, you probably heard, I think, in fact, mentioned it last week, so His Holiness says that Rinpoche's reincarnation is somewhere in Tibet, so they're looking for him now. Due to all past, present, and future merits collected by me, the numberless Buddhas, and all the numberless sentient beings which are completely empty of existing from their own side, may I, whom completely empty of existing from my own side, achieve the state of a full enlightenment, which is completely empty of existing from its own side, and lead all sentient beings who are completely empty of existing from their own side to that state which is completely empty of existing from its own side. By myself alone, or I'm completely empty of existing from my own side. So we can leave it at that. But also, I've got to mention, not just to mention that Rinpoche's incarnation is there, but also to dedicate for everything to go well with finding him, and also everything to go perfectly in his life. Okay, thank you. So thank you for your company during the last few weeks, and see you again soon, I hope. Please, everybody, take care. And yeah, don't forget, the main thing is what you do with your mind. Doesn't mean what happens with your body doesn't matter. But in terms of imprints, is what you do with your mind that counts the most. Okay. Were there some questions? I think no. Okay.